Uh, Welcome everyone. Welcome to the second week of the Austrian box. We're tasting this guy. Got this really crazy bed hair drawing of a crazy bed hair, what I assume to be a lady. Uh, uh, Line drawing of her. I quite like the drawing. It is done by a local artist called Flowfly. I don't know why the local artist goes by that name, Flowfly, but apparently this is the image that came to him when he tasted this wine. So there it is. Anyways, a few announcements. Case Club, in case you did not see the email, Case Club, I'm gonna wrap that all up tomorrow. So if you are thinking about or if you need to put your orders in for Case Club, do that now, so you don't miss out. I'm gonna close all of that at noon tomorrow. So that's all the wines from last month, as well as all the hits from the past, all the things that we feature. So go ahead and get that if you like, but get that into me by noon tomorrow because I'm close that. Still on the hunt for the Bosch box, waiting on rounding out last few crews. There's been some issues with the importers that I was working with. I was hoping to get some of them in, hoping to direct import some of that in from New York. Not sure if it's going to happen or it's being delayed right now. So I'm working on wrapping all that up. But in the meantime, I still have spots open in Bochbox. So if you're interested or if you know somebody who may be interested, let me know and get that going. Oh, you can't see me, Mike? Can other people see me? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's weird. Okay.
That is weird. Is it just black screen on yours?
Yeah, it's black screen in your little box, and then I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'll try fool around with some things and see if it changes.
Oh, okay.
I can see a few other people.
All right. That's weird. I mean, maybe log off, log back on. I don't know if that works. But anyways, yeah, Bochbox still open. So if you're interested on the fence or if you need somebody, if you want to give to somebody, let me know. You can still get trained. But that's really it. I don't really have anything else. Last but not least, we are donating to GiveWell this month. 1% of our gross revenue. So if you want to donate alongside Six Wine Club, the link is right there. Check out what they do. Pretty cool organization. So there it is. Any questions about anything that I just went over? I'm still hoping to wrap up Bochbox and hoping to distribute all of that along with your next month's wine. So we'll get started with the first week of February. That's the hope. But yeah, I think I can make it up. But we'll see. There's just a few loose ends that are not being tied up right now. So still waiting to wrap that all up. Cool. All right, here we are. We are tasting 2022 Geyerhof Hofstudien Kremstal Donauriesling is what we're tasting today. It's this guy with the. I really like this drawing, this label. I wish I actually had a big one, like as a poster that I could hang. I like it that much, but yeah. So that's what we're tasting. Right. Let's start with it. Here's a map of Austria. Right. We looked at this last week. Talked about how all the wine regions in Austria is on the eastern side, butting up against Hungary and Slovakia and Czech Republic and Slovenia to the south. And if you look more closely, we're spending a lot of time here in the northern part of Austria this month. We are going to go to Bergamot for 1 week, but all the other times we're basically right here, Niederösterreich. It just means lower Austria. This is what Niederösterreich means. It's just that the Danube River that flows down here, it actually flows into this river, even though it's north, it flows into it. That's why it's called lower. Oftentimes people think of south as lower, but here in Austria, this is considered lower because the river flows into it. So yeah, Vienna is right here. Just if you're familiar with Austrian geography, I'll give you a sense of where we are. But last week we're in Kremstal. We're once again in Kremstal. We talked about how the Niederösterreich is being the most significant in terms of both the quantity as well as the quality of the wines that are coming out of Austria. This is where the creme of Austrian wines come from, particularly here in Cantal, Kremstal, and Wachau. These are where the best Gruner and Rieslings, the world-renowned, arguably world's best white wines come from. And we are in Kremstal again. This time, we are butting up right up against the Wachau border. So we're like right up, you see this Danube, this is a Danube river that's flowing through, from going through Vienna. Very, very historic river, both in terms of literature as well as a Vienna history, as well as a trade structure for wine. A lot of Hungarian wine trade between Central and Eastern Europe, as well as Western Europe, was all done through Danube River. So it's no mistake, or it's no incident, no random incident that the best, quote unquote, the best, that were most significant wine regions of Austria are all planted right around the Danube River. So Vienna being the capital was right on the Danube River, and then these Cantal, Kremstal, Wachau are just right along the Danube River. But it's not just the ease of the trade, but also the hills that exist here. And then, this is a very cold area. Austria, we're talking about very continental climate, it gets very, very cold in the winter. But obviously being next to a large body of water, like the river system, gives it the moderating effect. So it gives it much more higher likelihood of success in terms of viticulture. So that's kind of what makes sense here. So this is where we are this week. Let's see if I can switch this up. So who makes this wine? Is this wholesome looking family, the Meyer family. I could not find the dad's name to save my life. So I don't know what his name is, but this is a Meyer family, M-A-I-E-R. They run Geyerhof, which is the name of the winery. It's a long-standing family vineyard or family winery, now run by the 13th generation mother, which is Ilse, which is right here. And then 14th generation son, which is Joseph, right here. This is Joseph's wife, Maria, who is also a winemaker. So this is kind of the story of, I mentioned this at the beginning of the month, right? That kind of what I'm trying to do this month is that kind of showcase the new guard of Austrian wines. There's old guard, the traditional, the Gruner, Riesling, all that stuff is out there. I mean, you can find it. They're incredible wines, world-class wines. And you can find that in almost any stores that are worth any salt. But oftentimes they don't show this kind of new generation, new stuff that's coming out. And that's what I'm trying to do this month, kind of showcase some of the kind of changing of the guard, show you what's coming out. These are the things that really excite me these days about Austrian wines. And don't get me wrong, I still love classic Austrian Gruner and Riesling. I really do think they're some of the world's best white wines, some of the most world-class ageable white wines that exist out there. But these kind of new guard, new age wines that are coming out is what's really exciting. And this family kind of showcases a lot of that. They do make very traditional classic Gruner, Riesling, Zweigelt, and all the Austrian kind of usual suspects, if you have it. But it's the new generation, Joseph and Maria, who's really coming in and establishing their kind of own style within the family winery. And this is their project, which is working with a peewee variety, and we'll cover what that means, peewee variety called Donauriesling, and making these kind of I mean, they were already super biodynamic and very much of a natural winemaker to begin with, very traditional. The mother, Ilse, definitely would not have used terms like natural wine. It's just a way that they're making wine for the last 14 generations. But they're going even further and getting to that kind of natty with a maybe capital N territory here, but with a lot of respect to traditional winemaking, very, very, very technical, solid foundation as well. So really exciting stuff. So anyways, yeah, 13th, 14th generation. So they've been making wines for a long fucking time. It's a story of 400 plus years in winemaking. The winery was founded in 1600. The Ilse's great-great-great-grandmother, their family have, the Meyer family have lived in this hilltop village since the 16th century, where the family began agriculture and brickworks. I think I have a better picture of their maybe estate. Give me one sec. Yeah, here are some pictures. Looks very modern and new now, at least on above ground, but you know, it is a very, very old historic building, or property at least. Looks super nice. Yeah, look at the ground. Still amazing. But in the 17th century, the Archduchess of Austria granted the family or the property owner of this winery, whose name was Geyer, his name Geyerhof, concession to transport wine on the Danube River and trade with Hungary and other regions along the river. And that's how this kind of property started. Today, the winery is housed in a 16th century structure built on bricks, and cellar goes all the way into the ground that were built between 1300s and 1700s. And even though this is their winemaking facility above ground, but once the wine is made, it all gets transported into their cellar through these stairs where they age for quite a bit of time. So yeah, this is the kind of place that we're talking about. These are some really old bottles that they have in their cellar down below. Among these cellars below ground, there's actually, supposedly, I haven't been there obviously myself, amongst these cellars, there is a quote-unquote French cellar where supposedly Napoleon's army stored their wine rations during a battle in Austria near Wagram. So there's some really, really historic kind of old cellars that are in there. In 1986, after studying agriculture in Vienna and spending time in Argentina studying wine, Ilse, the mother, joined her father in wine production. And today she works in the vineyard, and the cellar work, the winemaking part, is a lot of it is being passed on to her son, Joseph. But they work really in tandem. But they're kind of in this transitional stage where Joseph is trying to take over a lot of the family winery. And yeah, they're Demeter certified, so all 100% biodynamic. Currently farm roughly about 20 hectares, 60% of it planted to Gruner, 20% to Riesling, and then the balance of 20% planted to Zweigelt, Weißburgunder, which is a Pinot Gris. It's a German for Pinot Gris, and some other varieties, which Donauriesling is one of them. There's also a polyculture farm, so if you go to their farm, you'll find chickens, pigs, cattle, orchards, and all kinds of stuff as well. Very typical of Austrian winery. A lot of that biodynamic thinking about emphasis on biodiversity and holistic approach to farming, where viticulture is just one part of the bigger equation. So let's talk about this wine for a sec, because you may be wondering, what the hell is Donauriesling? So this wine is 100% hand-harvested, biodynamically grown Donauriesling. And Donauriesling is a peewee variety, and that peewee comes from this German word. I'm going to put it in the chat box. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that because I don't know how to pronounce that. But peewee is a short for that word that's in there. But Donauriesling is a cross between Riesling and another hybrid variety called FR589-54. And if there's not another, and I understand I'm vastly generalizing here, but if there's another grape variety that sounds so Germanic and Austrian, right? Like to name a grape variety by some fucking coded numericals and alphabets, It just seems very, sci-fi, very lab engineering ish. But yeah, so it's a Riesling crossed with another hybrid that's crossed with a bunch of other shit. The whole point of Peewee was initially, I mean, it's an organization that was founded, it's an international organization. It's not just in Austria, it's all over the world. But P was initially founded in Switzerland, but now they've been so largely adopted mostly by the Austrians that actually the headquarters as well as the actual production itself, the usage of the PV varieties as the research, the epicenter of all of that is right here in Austria. And the whole point, the mission, the aim of the organization is the idea of through a very careful and thoughtful crossing that they will be able to develop, research and develop these kind of fungus resistant, pest resistant varieties, and in turn hopes of reducing the chemical spraying in the fields, which will not only be great for environmental reasons, but also will reduce the cost for the producers, which will ultimately reduce the cost for the consumers. So, whether how it's maybe it's a little bit different from GMO, right? Like in GMO, we're talking about going over there and actually tweaking and modifying actual genes and genomes of a plant. But here, we're actually talking about just good old crossing of different varieties to get to this resistant thing. But all with the aim of also the idea of keeping the parental variety. So for example, for Donauriesling, this is obviously the Riesling is one of the parental varieties. The aim was that trying to mimic or at least imitate the behavior of the original parental variety as closely possible, and then adding some other crossings just to kind of make it more durable, so to speak, against fungal disease and any other diseases. And I think for the longest time, that kind of philosophy and an approach to this Peewee variety is, I think, what did it was a detriment to the actual embracing or actually being adopted by larger wine producers. A lot of not only the producers, but also the wine drinkers, they rejected this notion of Peewee varieties for a long time. I remember first hearing about Peewee varieties, like, over 10 years ago when I was first getting started and learning about Austrian wines. And at that time, it was kind of like this experimental stuff. People thought, this is like the eugenics of the, wine world, and, humans are playing God, and, it's never as good as the parental variety. So like, why even bother? Lose some yield, but at least make better wines. It was kind of what I was taught and what I was around when I was first learning about PV varieties in Austria. But in last 5 years or so, when I've been, relearning about Austria and kind of what are new things that are coming out, I kept hearing about these Peewee varieties are coming out. And honestly, even in the samples that my reps bring me to taste, there's just a lot more of these varieties that are popping up. In fact, a lot of times in Austria, when I don't know what that variety is, it's oftentimes like, oh, it's a Peewee variety, it's a developed. And all this young guard, this new generation, like Joseph and Maria, are taking things like Donauriesling and not only really treating as a Riesling, but really treating as its own variety, and really figuring out how the wine behaves, how wine is different, and really figuring out different spots and different winemaking that really suits the variety, as opposed to trying to mimic Riesling as close as possible. And I think I would say that is what's helping them be a little more successful, and then seeing the wines. And don't get me wrong, this wine behaves a lot like Austrian Riesling. There's a lot of similarity here. And when we get to tasting, we'll talk about what that is, how Austrian Riesling is maybe a little different from German Riesling and other places. But, it's not just Riesling. This is similar, but it has its own thing going on here. And that's kind of what I find exciting, that these folks are finally embracing this kind of thing that they've been doing for a while, and then really making it successful, making successful wines out of it. So whether this becomes the kind of the future of Austrian wines, who knows? I doubt that it will ever be the majority of the wines, but you know, maybe as the global warming becomes, you know, has its threat and becomes more of an issue, maybe going in this direction of a hybrid, I don't even know if this is actual word, hybridization. I think it's a word. Hybridization and figuring out new varieties that really make sense for the place where you're growing grapes. I think maybe that is the future. And, you know, speaking of hybrids, that work is being done quite a bit here in the States as well. In our neighboring state, Virginia, there's a lot of hybrids. We've tasted some hybrids like Chamberson. That's a hybrid grape that comes out of Virginia that's having a lot of success. Michigan, Vermont, there's a lot of hybrids coming out of Cornell University to kind of fit the climate and the soil and everything that's happening up there. So maybe you be the judge whether that is something that you think is something useful. But I honestly don't have any problem with it, as long as the wine is delicious, and then if there's a way for us to reduce the footprint, environmental footprint, while making the wine and growing the grapes, I personally don't have any problem with it. But that's what's happening now. By the way, I dropped a link to a Peewee International Organization's website, so go check it out if you're more interested. If you're interested in learning more about what they do and what that is all about. But yeah, like I said, this is the kind of stuff that really fits into kind of what I was envisioning in this box, which is this kind of new generation, new style of Austrian wines that are popping up, that are very different, but nonetheless very exciting, because it's just yeah, they're definitely on the fringe, but trying to break it to the mainstream. So where we at. So yeah, it's 100% Donauriesling, biodynamically grown. They take the care to place them really gently in a box because they want to press it whole bunch press instead of de-stemming it. They do it in an old wooden basket press. So that tells me that a few things that's happening here. So whenever you hear producers talk about, I want to press whole bunch, what that tells me is that, so it's just think about even physics. So if there's a bunch of grape berries and then there's stems that are inside and you're pressing it, if you press too hard, then you're going to get all the phenolics, all the stems, and all the green that comes out. But that's part of the reason why they use a wood basket press, which is much gentler and slower, as opposed to the quick mechanic press that we can get all the polyphenolic compounds out of the stems. But why you do that is that the bunches get crushed, but all the juices run through kind of all that spaces between the stems and the seeds and the skins, and it runs off, and you get a lot more of this kind of free running juice that hasn't really steeped into like the crushed grape skins. That's where a lot of tannins and these phenolic compounds are. So oftentimes when you hear things like whole bunch press and a wooden basket press, what it's telling me is that they're really trying to retain the kind of natural delicate aromas. It's oftentimes done with a very kind of not super aromatic, but like things that you want to keep the aromatic nature or the essence of the grape. And, you know, things like Riesling, which is a very aromatic variety, you can tell that this is what they're trying to do. So press whole bunch in a wooden basket press. As you saw in that picture, one picture, even though they have that really modern looking stainless steel fermenters in the cellar, this is also a very modern new Peewee variety, but the winemaking here is very, very traditional. And to me, this is kind of stuff that's fun and exciting, right? Taking the tradition, respecting the tradition, but working with this modern thing. So press whole bunch in a wooden basket press. It's fermented in old neutral barrels instead of a stainless steel, both fermented and rested in there. The malolactic fermentations are fully blocked, so there's no mallow put on there, which means they just lower the temperature, gets cold enough so it doesn't happen, and then just filter that out. And then it's bottled unfiltered, unfined, with a minimum sulfur. So again, very modern, working with a very modern variety, employing a very traditional old winemaking technique is basically what you have here. Yeah, this is a series of wine that's released. So they have kind of two lines of wines in Geyerhof. One is that very traditional, classic Gruner, Riesling, and Zweigelt that I mentioned. It's the wines that Joseph's mom really kind of handles. And then there's a new line that they make, which are these kind of like the with a modern drawing line painting labels, which is what Joseph and Maria, his wife, the young generation, are making. And their Riesling, by the way, which I tasted as well. I almost thought about bringing the Riesling, but I ended up going this way, just so we can talk about Pee Wee variety a little bit. But their Riesling is also fantastic, delicious, clean, and I think it has it's just super fresh and young. And I think it's not that expensive, but it's not expensive at all at that. But it has a ton of ageability. So for you Riesling heads on this call, I highly recommend. I'll offer down Case Club. You pick up a few bottles and then either drink it or just lay it down a few years, because I think for the price, it's punching way above its weight class, wine class, I should say. Any questions about anything I just went over before we get to tasting? All right. Who wants to take the appearance?
I'll do it.
Okay.
All right. This is, it's got a little bit of a haze to it. I mean, it's super clear.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's what you would call faulty.
Yeah.
The intensity is a pale plus, maybe. It's pale, but not super pale.
Yep.
And it's a lemon, maybe lemon green.
Yep. Agree. I'll call this about lemon. By the way, Riesling is, when it's super young, is one of those varieties that kind of gets this greenish tinge to it. I think this one, I don't know if I would put green on this thing. It's still pretty lemon to me. I would call it, I completely agree with you, call pale lemon.
Yeah, pale lemon.
But yeah, just wanted to let you know that some Riesling, especially when it's super young, it can have some greenish tinge to it. Anything else, Phil?
Right. I don't see any bubbles. I don't see any sediment in the wine.
Yep. Perfect. So, all right. Next person for the nose. You get to pick.
No, let's see. Fuentes, you're in the screen.
All right, Sarah.
Yes, I am super out of practice.
That's all right. Even more reason to do it.
This wine is clean.
This wine is clean. So sound.
Medium.
What do you smell it? Start moving the glass towards your nose. I'm not sure.
I can take it maybe like an inch off.
Yeah.
Less than an inch.
Is your wine like super cold?
It is a little cold.
Yeah. And, so that may be it. So like mine is, like I smell it here.
I took it off when we started.
Yeah. This is like a few inches. I mean, this is like, to me, borderline pronounced here. Like, yeah. So I'm gonna call this at least medium plus, and my wine is pretty cold too. Like I opened it right before as we were saying tasting as well. But yeah, it's already opened up quite a bit. Even last, I don't know, half an hour that I've been jibber jabbering. But right now I call this medium plus. You may even get to pronounce. It's quite far. But Riesling is like that. Riesling is just a very, very aromatic, concentrated, great variety. It just is. Yeah. So medium plus. I mean, this is Donauriesling Riesling, but yeah. Medium plus. Aroma characteristics. What do you smell?
I get some floral, maybe like honeysuckle or elderflower.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely some pretty flowery going on here. Yep.
Yeah. Maybe some pear.
Okay.
Citrus, like more of a lemony zest.
Yeah, I get like very zesty kind of a citrus here. Yeah. Lemon
Yeah.
zest, even lime zest maybe a little bit, but like zesty.
Yeah. I don't think I get any tropical fruit.
You get any stone fruit?
No, not really. Like for me, it smells more like pear than like peach or
Yeah.
anything like.
Okay.
Maybe some apricot.
Yeah. Yeah, you could convince me there's a little stone fruit here, but again, to me, this is more, yeah, like the really pretty honeysuckle, citrus and all of that. But yeah. No tropical either for me. No red and black, obviously. Nature of the fruit.
Fresh.
Yeah, it's fresh, it's ripe, it's not underripe, it's not overripe, it's like perfectly ripe and perfectly fresh is what I get here.
Mm-hmm.
Any herbaceous, any herbal, any green kind of a thing going on?
Nothing herbaceous or green.
Yeah.
I don't really get any stones or anything else either. Like it's not minerally. Like
Yeah.
it's like it is almost. I can't tell if it's the taste that's throwing me off or not either, but like almost a little like sweet, like butter. Maybe not butter, but
So to me, there's
something.
like a nectary thing going on here. Like if you ever smell like a nectar of a flower, like the sweet part that bees come in contact to go make honey with, like
Yeah.
to me, there's like this kind of nectary sense. Even, as the wine warms up, actually, I get a little bit like an orange zest, like orange blossom nectar kind of a thing going on here for me.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to go all as far as saying like it's not honey, but
there's like something sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, very like exactly like something that we associate with sweet. Like there's something very pretty nectary kind of a thing here.
Yeah.
Which is dope. No oak, no yeast. Again, I suck at this thing. You mentioned maybe butter, but we do know that there's no MLF. The MLF is blocked on this thing.
Yeah.
So none of that. Any tertiary?
No.
Yeah, me neither. This is very fresh, very primary driven, but a lot of just kind of pretty things layered in. Yeah, cool. Good job.
Thanks. I missed you guys.
Yeah, you're not so rusty. You still got it. You still got it.
Got it. Well, I'm still drinking, just not on Wednesday.
Good to hear. Good to hear. All right, you get to pick the next person for the panel.
Okay. David Corlette.
Mr. Corlette.
Oh, all right. Okay. Hi, everybody. I would guess it's dry, but it's maybe not entirely dry.
Yeah. See, this is what I don't know. I don't have the lab data, so I don't know for sure. But I know I'm pretty sure this is. If I had to guess the RS on this thing, well, probably like 4 grams, 3, 4, 5 max, which is still very much a dry category. But all the things that we're talking about, that kind of like flowery, nectary, sweet smelling things, is so intense that like it tricks our brain to thinking that this is actually sweet, right? Because like this is where our brain keeps going. Evolutionary, this is what we've been ingrained, right? When we smell those things, sorry for sugar, so go towards that because sugar is high caloric, high caloric. But this one is definitely dry.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely reads as sweeter than it actually tastes. I can sense that.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good acid. I would probably say medium plus on the acid.
Yeah, I would with a medium plus. Maybe not as ripping as we thought, but I think just like solidly medium plus. Maybe like lower medium plus, but yeah, I would still call this medium plus. Tannin, We're going to talk about tannin. Alcohol. What do you think the alcohol in this thing is?
I don't read it as particularly high. I'd probably guess. So I guess I'd say low to medium, maybe 11.
Yeah, I guess like 12, but the bottle says 13.
13?
Given, yeah, I mean, producers have a leeway about like a percent. So this could be in a 12%, this could be go up to 14%, but label says 13%. To me, this drink's like 12. Yeah, this seems pretty low to me, but who knows? But still, nonetheless, this is right in that kind of like lower medium minus to lower end of medium kind of territory here. Body.
It's got some body. I'd go with medium. Yeah, definitely not light. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as medium plus maybe, but it's a medium.
Yeah, agreed. It's got some body. I mean, this is what's one of the things that are kind of cool is that Riesling, notoriously, unless you put some sugar in it, unless you put some RS on it, it doesn't develop the body. It's usually much lighter kind of a variety. But this is what I'm talking about. Like a Donauriesling, there's a lot more power. There's a lot more weight to it, which is something cool. So yeah. But in general, I gave a hint earlier, but in general, German versus Austria, the Austrian Rieslings tend to has just a little more power to it, just a little more body, little more alcohol, little more just kind of oomph behind it. But the funny thing is, you would think something that has just a little more richness or body to it would have less of the delicate aromas, but that flowery kind of like really pretty thing that's going on in Riesling, that is very much of Austrian. So Austrian Riesling, more power, a little more like this pretty flower. It's like, I don't know, it's like a muscular dude who can still sing like, I don't know, opera, like if you can imagine it that way. To me, that's how Austrian is. German is just like much lighter. It's just dances on its feet. It's much more electric and just light. Austrian just has a little more bass notes here. In general, again, this is very much a big generalization, but when you're trying to decide if you're in a shop about should I get a German Riesling or Austrian Riesling, one, German Riesling most likely will have some sugar unless it does say Trocken on the label. It will probably have some sugar on it. Austrian Riesling is almost always bone dry, but also flavor-wise, it's very different. The Austrian Riesling tends to be a little bit richer, more powerful, but a lot more flower notes running through. And then the German Riesling tends to be a lot more like limey, lime zest, just like an electric acidity. This is very, very like linear, lean, as opposed to this one just tends to be has a little more fat on it. So, but body, 100% agree. There's a medium here. Moose, we don't have to talk about that. Flavor intensity?
I think it's got a ton of flavor for me. I'd go medium plus.
Yeah, 100%. It does not lack in concentration here, this wine. Whether you like it or not, it's up to you. You know, that's preference, but you cannot deny that this wine is shy. It's not shy. Look, it is concentrated. All right. Do you confirm everything that Sarah pointed out? Anything else you get or something you do not get?
I confirm everything. To me, there on the palate, there is something else, like maybe a vegetal note or a little bit of bitterness. Like it kind of aftertaste.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure. I would say green bell pepper, but it's not quite right.
Yeah, I agree. On the palate, towards the end, there's that little bit like the phenolic bitterness. And I think it's because of the whole bunch. Even though they're trying to do the whole bunch to and a gentle pressing to get it off, but obviously it does pass through some of the stems and all of that. So I do think maybe that has something to do with it. But I agree. On the palate, I didn't really get it on the nose, but on the palate, especially toward the back, I get a little bit of that like phenolic, just a touch of phenolic bitterness, and then herbaceous like savoriness that's here. But I think it's like actually quite nice, like balanced with all these flowers and really sweet things that we've been talking about. Having that little bit of like savory thing at the end, I actually think is a quite nice balance here.
Yeah.
But yeah, excellent, excellent.
I don't
Pretty
get any,
sharp palate there, Mr. Corlette.
well, thank you. I don't really get any mineral at all.
Agreed. To
Yeah.
me, this is not like a super minerally one. And also, maybe I forgot to say this. There's a lot of clay and then sandstone that's grown where this grape is grown from. So clay gives just more robust, like a concentration of the fruit. And then the sandy soil just doesn't build a lot of that kind of minerality density, all of that. So yeah, it makes sense that why it wouldn't be super minerally. But yeah, to me, there's not a whole lot of minerality here. This is just really just kind of a fruit, flower and fruit abundance is basically what I would say. But yeah, again, that I don't know. To me, what I like about this one is the prettiness of it. I mean, maybe that's why this label was named that way. But it's like very pretty, over the top, not over the top, but like this kind of notes of that nectar, sweet nectar, blossom, honeysuckle running on top with this like really good acid backbone and citrus fruit and all of that is what I really like. And then to your point, that little bit of like savory balance that comes out at the end. Anything secondary, tertiary, anything else? No?
I guess maybe a tiny little bit of like a petrol.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you don't normally comes with age, right? But I don't know. I think I would guess in a few years that you would definitely taste it, but I'm not. Do you get that at all?
So what Dave is referring to is that there's a chemical compound. I don't know all the entire thing. It's called TDN. Short TDN for short. It just naturally rich in Riesling, and in some cases it can express itself like a very kind of like rubbery, not rubbery, but like if you guys ever watch Psalm, there's a scene where Ian Cobble talks about it smells like a fresh can of tennis balls, or if you cut off like a hose, like what that smells like. If you ever smell like a fresh cut hose, garden hose, like it expresses itself like that. So if you ever taste like Australian Clare Valley Riesling, it does have that. It does have that kind of like synthetic rubber. I don't know what is the garden hose made out of? What's the material there? It's not rubber, but whatever that shit is. But like we all know what that smells like. It does have that kind of a smell. So that's TDN. When it gets aged, especially in Riesling, it expresses itself as petrol. So this thing here in bottle age and tertiary, petrol kerosene. If you ever wonder what this thing is, that's what that is. When TDN gets bottle age and mixes it with a little bit of oxygen and kind of mellows out over time, it develops this kind of petrol-y, kerosene, gas station kind of a smell, which sounds weird, but it is actually quite lovely with a particularly Riesling. But something to look out for, and that's kind of what Dave is referring to here. To me, like there's not a whole lot of that TDN popping out on this thing. It could be that,
just
yeah, it could be that like just knowing that this is a Riesling's cousin or
a suggestion maybe.
Yeah, exactly, maybe suggesting that, but yeah. So basically, that's what Dave is referring to. All right. Cool.
Yep.
How about the length? How long do the finishes flavors stick around?
It's still going. Medium plus, definitely.
Yeah, it's got some length.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like higher end of medium, lower end of medium plus, like it's somewhere around there for me. I think I would end up medium plus as well. I know that my wine is also very cold right now, and I know probably it'd be better. So I'll end up medium plus as well. But if you call this medium, I think that's totally understandable. But I'm gonna end up medium plus as well. All right.
It gets much less intense, but I'm actually still tasting it, having taken a
Yeah.
sip. It falls off quickly, but then it kind of lasts at a low level. It's weird, actually.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, the intensity here is fucking crazy. Like, it's a lot. It's a very intense one. All right. Quality level. How good is it? And would you age it?
so let's see. Quality level, I always forget what these are, but so there's balance. I
Mhm.
think it's well balanced. I like it has this it tastes sweet, but it's not actually sweet. It has a little bit of bitterness. Has some nice balance of flavors. Intensity is good. Medium plus, I think we said.
Yep.
But not terribly complex.
Correct. Yep.
Kind of
Agree.
mostly, it was touches of a couple things. So I probably land somewhere in between good and very good.
Yep. Exactly. So medium and then length, we called it, higher than medium, lower than medium plus, somewhere in there as well. So if you kind of take average all of that, it's really the complexity that's dragging us down, but we're somewhere in the between good and very good. So depending on how much you liked it, I guess you can call it very good, you can go good, depending on how you feel. But yeah, I think this splits kind of the between good and very good. Of course, being the generous wine taster that I am, I'm gonna give it very good. But if you ended up on good, I think it's perfectly reasonable. Would you age it?
I mean, yes, I think it has the acid for it. And I think the fresh flavors would get interesting because you probably get some of that petrol. I don't know.
Yep.
Probably not for 15 years, but maybe even up to 7 or 8.
Yeah, what Dave said, the backbone is great. The acid backbone is there. The intensity is there, so it doesn't just fall off. Yeah, and then one of the things that we called out as maybe lacking is the complexity, right? And then as this wine ages, it's going to add more complexity because a lot of the primary flavors are going to turn to tertiary flavors. And because it has a concentration, some of the primary will stick around and some of the primary will go tertiary. So adding more complexity to the wine, making the wine quote unquote better, at least according to this scale. So I think this is a good candidate for aging. I personally would never had aged Donauriesling before. So I don't have any reference point, but given the acidity level, given the intensity of this wine, I think this can easily age for 5, maybe possibly longer. But I think it's drinking beautifully now. I find this wine quite delicious and charming now. But if you were to come back and age it, I say check the progress, come back in 3, and then check it every year, going up to 5, maybe beyond. It's kind of my call for this wine would be. Only because I don't have the reference point, I'll say come back in at 3 and then check it every year just so it doesn't fall off. Maybe these hybrid grapes do something weird over time, but
I think I'd say it'd be interesting to see what happens, but I'm not sure it would actually be better.
Yeah. True. Yeah, maybe that petrol thing may happen, may not happen. Who knows? I don't know. But excellent. Any questions? Pool toy, yeah.
So, you have a lot of experience with this grape. I've never had it before. I actually really like it quite a bit. But I don't know if this is the regular expression of it or not. I feel like I've drank a lot of Austrian wine without ever having this grape before.
Yeah. Again, this is kind of like a new thing. It's just being embraced now. I would say I've tasted Donauriesling maybe 5 times in my life, and they were all within last 5 years. So very
How
recent
does
kind of a
this
thing.
rank?
It's very similar. Like, I mean, there's some Donauriesling that I won't be able to tell you if it was Riesling. It behaves a lot like Riesling. The only thing that gives me, that will give me a hint around it is that kind of a body that we're talking about earlier. I think Donauriesling tends to have a little fuller body than regular Riesling. But outside of that, in terms of flavor, aromatics, and all of that, it behaves quite a lot like Riesling. These are, I mean, this is one of the, I don't remember any of them like particularly being like, oh my God, this is mind blowing, so good. But you know, it was pitched to me as an experimental grape variety, the hybrid grape variety that I'm working with in Austria. It's like, try it out. And I don't ever remember being, oh, I don't know if it was fine. This one definitely caught my eye. But this is the one that I've tasted in a recent times. All the other ones were probably pre-pandemic. I tasted the other 4 before pandemic, and then I
I mean, the
tasted
reason I ask is actually a pretty accessible wine. I mean, there are some sort of obscure varieties that people who don't really like wine would be like, oh, what is that?
absolutely.
But this one, you can't place it. Well, at least I can't, but it's delicious. And
Yeah.
so if this was served to me by the glass somewhere, I'd be like, well, what is this?
Yeah, 100%.
It's lovely.
100%.
So
And that's kind of like what we're talking about with PE Riesling, you know, like it's because people don't know what it is and it's a new thing. It's just never been really embraced, but it's starting to get embraced now. So I'm hoping that we'll see more of these things. And you know, as the aim of the organization, maybe it will have a less environmental footprint, but as well as also the price will come down because it will potentially be cheaper for producers to produce without having to spray and all of that. So hopefully we'll see.
So this is Riesling crossed with something else, and it seems similar to Riesling. But do you know what the characteristics are of the grape that it's crossed with?
That I do not know. I mean, I've never even. It's called FR589-54. Like I don't what the fuck.
You're not an expert at FR5.
Yeah, it's almost. I feel like that one was never developed to actually make wine. That one is developed just to be like a disease fighter for the Riesling. It's like it was bred to be a breeding variety, if that makes sense.
So it's like it's rot resistant or whatever it is that
Right.
no other characteristics, the growing characteristics, not the flavor or anything.
Exactly. So otherwise, I would think that it would get a name and probably there'd be some sort of varietal wine that's made with it. That's my guess. Maybe in small circles of Austria, that shit is super popular. People are like, bring me that bottle of FR589-54, you know, like, who knows? Maybe that's a thing in Austria. Who knows? Any other questions? Also, that is like the most Germanic Austrian thing ever. If I had walked into a restaurant and heard a German or Austrian order wine like that, I would lose my mind. All right, let's play everybody's favorite game. How much do you think this wine is on a retail shelf? How much would you be happy paying for on a retail shelf? You know, I actually said this on my tasting note when I first tasted this wine. There's something like muscady about it to this thing. Like it's actually grapey, like actual grape itself. Get some of that here as well. All right, 17, 25, 28, 25, 37. All right, Shannon. 28, 30, 25, 30. I'll pay 25, cost 27, 22 to 26. All right, you guys are all right in the ballpark. Except Shannon is willing to pay way more. This on a retail shelf would be 25 bucks. So I think it's one hell of a value for $25 wine. Like, I think it way over delivers. It's delicious, you know, especially if you're like a Riesling fan, high-acid Riesling fan. Like, just to me, this is a no-brainer. But Yeah, it's so good. Any other questions? All right.
Yeah, they have to compete with actual Riesling though, right? When they market this wine?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the marketing effort on this thing is. And that's kind of what I was talking about. Like for the longest time, even for the marketing, I think they were trying to compete with the Riesling, saying we are like the, I don't know, Riesling's cousin. And a lot of people just thought it's like it's not as good as Riesling. It's a cheaper, it's like a poor man's Riesling. It's a cheaper version of Riesling. But for the first time now, these kind of new generation of young winemakers are really embracing it and say, we're not going to actually compare to, and I'm today, even for me, I know I compare this a lot to Riesling, but they're trying to say this is actually not Riesling necessarily. It's just its own thing. They're trying to market it as its own variety. So, though it is, in my opinion, awfully similar to Riesling. It behaves a lot like Riesling. So maybe the criticism is granted, but I don't think this is any worse or any bad. Like this is delicious wine.
Yeah, but
So,
if you did a blind tasting of this, would you call this a Riesling? I mean, it doesn't taste like Riesling to me at all. It tastes like
Austrian
a cross
Riesling.
between Riesling and Gewürztraminer or something like
Yeah.
that to me. Which is
it's
both things that I like, but it doesn't taste like Riesling to me.
yeah. It tastes, there's a lot of Austrian Rieslings that smell and then behave this way. But exactly, there's a little things like you mentioned. There's a little bit of like floral content, like the grape. I said muscat. To me, it reminds more of muscat than it reminds of Gewürz. That a lot more floral kind of content. But yeah. Yeah. Anyways, PV variety. You guys should embrace PV variety and check them out. You'll be that wine consumer next time you're going to a wine shop. If you drop PV variety, then what the fuck? You guys will either be laughed out of the wine shop or you guys will cement your status as like the wine geek. I'm like, you know what PV varieties are? Like let me try you on this geeky wine. Any other questions? No? Okay.
No, but I will say I didn't like it. I think I'm the only one. I think I just really need a lot more minerality in whites.
Okay.
I'm liking it more as we've like talked about it. I'm noticing these things, but like when I first opened it, I don't know if it was too cold or what, but I don't know. It's growing on me, but I'm not a huge fan. I think
Okay.
I just need that mineraliness. When you start talking about the soil, I was like, oh, maybe that's it.
Yeah. That's fair. I mean, this is a lot of fruit without that mineral backbone, for sure. And Riesling will have a lot more of that mineral backbone. It just naturally carries a lot of that mineral backbone. Yeah, I didn't actually run that survey. Did everybody like this? Did anybody not like this? I mean, besides Sarah? Okay. All right. Oh, I don't know how you don't like this, Sarah. It's just delicious.
I'm trying it. As it's warming up, I'm liking it more. Like Dave helped a lot too because I liked how it smelled a lot more than it tasted until he like went through it. But yeah, I think I just miss that minerality. That's what I like that a lot.
All right. That's fair. It's fair. I mean, I like minerality too. All right. Anyway, hearing no other questions, I'm going to stop the recording.